Hey guys, what's up, and welcome to another video of the Predator Vlogs. And it's been a while that the Predator has come on one of these videos and talked about some action figures, but something just recently happened and I felt I needed to make a video and talk about it. That's right, the Predator recently went to see the Superman movie by James Gunn, and I wanted to talk about that experience. It was an amazing time that I had watching that movie. David Corn Sweat, Rachel Brosnahan, I don't know how you pronounce that, Nicholas Hoult, amazing movie right there, and I really had a great time. This is not a review, this is not me talking about how the movie should have been or me critiquing the movie. That's not any of it. This is just me as a comic book fan, as a superhero fan, just talking about how amazing Superman was. And then I'm going to talk about, if you, one of somebody just getting newly into comic books, into superheroes, and you've seen the movie and you want to know a little more about Superman, want to read some comic books, I'm going to tell you a few comic books that you could possibly read for this character that is the Man of Steel. So first of all, let's dive into the mythos of Superman, right? All of us we know about how Superman is one of the greatest comic book characters of all time. He's one alien from the planet of Krypton. The planet went kaboom and he comes into the earth. His parents send him to Earth, and then he grows up in a small city called Smallville, and they raise him with really good values. They raise him to be a very good person. Clark Kent, as he grows up, comes into the bustling town of Metropolis and he becomes a reporter at the Daily Planet. We all know all of that, right? But what this movie does is kind of picks up right from there. It's been a few years that Clark Kent has been Superman, and now he starts facing those conflicts, right? The modern day issues, political issues. There are a lot of politics and power struggles that go on, corruption, bureaucracy, all of this thing that happens right there, and Lex Luthor is in the middle of it. I think this portrayal of Lex Luthor was one of the best. I've not seen Lex Luthor being portrayed any better on the big screen. So really enjoyed. He kind of looked like a very maniacal, malevolent person who actually just wanted to harm Superman's reputation, right? And he wanted to be at the center of it all, profiteering off of that and being revered as one of the greatest minds of the 21st century. So Superman has his battles. I think the best part of all of this was that you could just go into the movie hall and look at Superman and understand what that character represents. He's not a dark and brooding character like Batman. He doesn't crack random jokes like the Flash. He's just very human, and probably being an alien, that's the dichotomy of it, that's the irony of it, that being an alien, Superman is still more human than a lot of us. So if you're a Superman fan, I would recommend that you go and watch this movie because this was amazing. And now, let's get into the good part. You've seen the movie, you like Superman, you want to know a little more about his character, right? So let's talk about some good comic books that you could possibly read and understand a little more about Superman. So the first one that I'd like to recommend to you, I think is one of the best Superman stories ever written, and that is called Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. I think Alex Ross's artwork, any comic book person you show Alex Ross's artwork, they're gonna say that is amazing. It's just like out of a real life story. It's a work of art. It should be taught in schools. It should be kept in museums. That's how good Alex Ross is. And then Mark Waid talks about this dystopian future where superheroes, your normal Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, all of these guys have kind of taken a backseat. And then there are new superheroes, like there's a guy called Magog, right? And he's the superhero, and the Joker does something, and you know Batman's internal struggles of not killing, right? So Batman never killed the Joker, and then eventually the Joker does something, and this guy Magog just shows up and kills the Joker, and everybody starts cheering for him. Everybody cheers for Magog, and then Superman just realizes that it's time to pack it in, because humanity has just lost it. We're essentially celebrating the death of a human being, no matter how physically or mentally demented that person might be. And so Superman just packs it in, and then there are tons of nonsense that's happening around the world. And then this Kingdom Come is just a story about how Superman gets back into action. The artwork is amazing. Superman has this huge fight, and then I don't want to give you too many spoilers, but then there is a huge story within the story of Captain Marvel or Shazam, and his redemption of how he kind of understands some of the mistakes that he made. Batman plays an important role here. Wonder Woman's there, Superman, Captain Marvel, Lex Luthor is one of the central characters right here, and you kind of all see all of this events on Earth unfolding through the eyes of somebody else. So it's a really great book. I'd love for you to kind of go out, check that out, and you will have a good time reading it. The next story that I'd love for you to read is Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. So this pairing of Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale is an all-time classic. They've done tons of Batman comics, and then they teamed up together to do Superman for All Seasons. This is an amazing story that focuses on the man behind the mantle. And Superman for All Seasons just focuses on, it's not about Superman going out there and punching villains. It's about Clark Kent and how he grows up to be a man with really good values. Superman for All Seasons focuses on the different seasons of Superman's life, probably the different chapters of Superman's life, and these are told through stories from the people around him. So you have Jonathan Kent talking about his experience of how Clark is and what Clark is, and then you have Lex Luthor's perspective of what Clark Kent is, and then you have Lois Lane and Lana Lang, all of them telling what Clark Kent essentially as a person is. I think the artwork is brilliant right here. If you are a fan of watercolors, I think it's just a riot of the palette, and you can see the different vibrant colors out there on every page. It's just an experience reading a story about hope, story about feeling good, and a story about how Superman influences the good in people, brings out the really good qualities in people, and just something that you need to read if you're a Superman fan. The next book that you should definitely read if you are a Superman fan has to be Superman Birthright by Mark Waid and I think Francis Yu, who's done the artwork over here. So this is like a modern retelling of Superman's origin story. I think back in India, back in the day, 2001, 2002, 2003, we used to have these Gotham comics, and a lot of Birthright was kind of featured on these Gotham comics, and you had to go to your newsstand and buy all of that. But just to get into the story, you can get this as a trade paperback with all the issues covered in one single book. You can check this out. It's the modern retelling of what Superman is and what it is like for a young Clark Kent to become Superman. He's just somebody who's growing up in this world, trying to become a reporter, traveling the world, making friends all around the world. And then all of his, he tries to come to grips with the idea of being a Kryptonian, what that means, what his place in life is on this planet, how he can do good. A lot of themes that you find centrally with any Superman character. And then just the modern sensibility around this entire book, given that, it doesn't insult your intelligence. I know a lot of older stories could be phony, could be, people could be cynical while reading that. This is not one of them. This is a modern setting where the world is changing and Superman is trying to fit inside, being an alien, being an outsider, trying to fit in with the world and see what it means like to be that beacon of light and hope in the world. So check out Superman Birthright by Mark Waid and Francis Yu. Really great book. On to the next. The next book that I'm going to talk about, and many people believe that this is the best ever Superman comic ever written, is going to be All-Star Superman. That's written by Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly, I think. So that is the top Superman comic book that's right there, up there for every Superman fan. One of the best things, like a lot of the comic books that I just spoke about, I think you can just jump into this comic book without having too much of a knowledge around the backstory of Superman. You just know the basics and you can get into the story. The premise of the story is that Superman has been diagnosed with a disease that is kind of just killing him from the inside, but at the same time gives him an insane amount of power, and his superpowers are just evolving and he's growing stronger, but then he's dying from the inside. And this is Grant Morrison's way of just paying homage to one of the greatest comic book characters of all time. And you can just see that you have Superman, even though he's dying, he kind of still does his work, tries to make the world a better place. A very unique perception of what Superman thinks the world would be like without him. And this is just a story about how he instills hope in people, he prevents somebody from committing suicide, and tons of other great stuff. I won't spoil the rest of the book because I really want you to go ahead and read this, because this one is that damn good. And the final story that I want to recommend to anybody that's kind of starting out with Superman is a comic book that I keep with me at all times. This is one of my favorites, I think my most favorite Superman comic book. This is Superman Smashes the Klan. This is written by Jean Luen Yang and art by Guri Hiru. This is a story about a little Chinese family that's moving from Chinatown into Metropolis, and the sort of xenophobia and outrage that they need to deal with just moving from one place of the country to another, and understand how different society used to be back in the day and how much we have come forward. And this is based, like I said, in the 1940s. So this is a Superman who doesn't really fly. He can't fly, he can't use his laser beam and all of those things. What he does do is he can run very fast, and he runs on these telephone lines and wires, and he's just learning to use his strength. And it's more of a mental thing as well, because he's not really manifested his full powers. And then this family, there's this girl and her brother, they have different experiences of living in Metropolis. Somebody wants to go back, somebody is just mixing in with the crowd. All of that experience of just being out of place and trying to fit in and trying to get love, having that sense of belonging, and just dealing with different sorts of people that you face in life. And there's no super villain as such in this story. I think this is about the Ku Klux Klan that was big back in the day in the United States. And when you read this book, there's actually a lot that talks about what it was like in the history of the Klan and all of those things at the end of the story. And it talks about how life in America used to be back in the day for a lot of immigrant families. So this was the video for today. I hope you go ahead, enjoy this amazing character. What a time to be alive when we have the era of superheroes just all around us. Pick your character. Don't go in with so much hate. Just love your characters, love your comic books, love your stories, and just remember to have fun. And until the next time, the Predator will see you again with more toys, action figures, and toy reviews. Until then, Predator out!